The Steele Dossier was entered in the congressional record. Was it true?
There is not a single substantive piece of information in the dossier that has ever been corroborated by the FBI or, to my knowledge, anyone else.
For the first time, U.S. investigators say that they have corroborated some of the communications detailed in a 35-page dossier compiled by a former British intelligence agent.
U.S. officials tell CNN that last year, the FBI used a dossier of allegations of Russian ties to Donald Trump's campaign as part of the justification to get approval to secretly monitor Trump associate Carter Page.
This afternoon, White House spokesman Sean Spicer said, quote, "We continue to be disgusted by CNN's fake news reporting."
Fake news is what they call any news they don't like.
I have to say, though, that I think you compare the two, that Watergate pales really, in my view, as compared to what we're confronting now.
Mr. Steele has a very good reputation, is reportedly a former British intelligence officer. I can't confirm that, but is reported to be very well regarded. And I think the key thing from an investigative point of view is not trying to impeach the people who produced the report or commissioned the report, but rather find out whether the facts are true in the report. And when you look at just what has become public, some of the public information is very much in line with what is reported in that dossier. And
we have an idea of who those Democrats were, how far up this reached, and we have a better idea of how those writing the checks denied it during the campaign. Or, as Maggie Haberman of the New York Times eloquently puts it, folks involved in funding this lied about it, and with sanctimony, for a year.
With respect to the dossier itself, the key thing is, it doesn't matter who paid for it. It's what the dossier said and the extent to which it's corroborated or not.
Fine.
Did you tell him that the Steele dossier had been financed by his political opponents?
No. I don't even think I used the term Steele Dossier. I just talked about additional material.
But did he have a right to know that?
That had been financed by his political opponents? I don't know the answer to that. It wasn't necessary for my goal, which was to alert him that we had this information.
Christopher Steele's dossier and about Christopher Steele. Is he considered reliable according to your sources as an intelligence agent?
Yes.
When did you learn that the DNC and Hilary Clinton campaign had funded Christopher Steele's work?
Yeah, I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans, opposed to Donald.
But that's not true.
It wasn't like when the dossier is handed over to the FBI, they just take it hook, line, and sinker, and, well, case closed. They investigated everything that was in the dossier and corroborated most of it.
Is there anything in the dossier that has been disproven?
No, some of it hasn't been proven, and some of it hasn't been. No, I guess the short answer to the question.
In the dossier itself, in those 40 or whatever the number of paragraphs, were there some good leads?
Yes. Yes, there was a lot of information that we could not disprove.
When did you first learn of the so-called Steele dossier and what Christopher Steele was doing?
It was in late summer of 2016 when there were some individuals from the various U.S. news outlets who asked me about my familiarity with it. And I had heard just snippets about it. I did not know what was in there. I did not see it until later in that year. I think it was in December. But I was unaware of the provenance of it as well as what was in it. And it did not play any role whatsoever in the intelligence community assessment that was done, that was presented to then President Obama and then President-elect Trump.
What we quickly found out was many of the things represented in the Steele reports were in fact true.
I read it. It read very much like it was prepared by a trained intelligence professional. But since it wasn't a CIA document, a CIA or FBI or whatever else, there was no way to dig down and to learn about the accuracy and validity and reliability of those sources.
You could go through the dossier and see whether there were statements in there that were untrue.
Well,
was there anything that indicated to you that it might not be true?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Is there an effort to get a warrant approved without using the dossier?
Yes, my understanding is in the summer they asked DOJ whether they would support moving forward on a warrant application.
And they said no, right?
Correct. That's my understanding from the Horowitz report.
Then you add the dossier, all of a sudden they say yes to the warrant application. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair to say that DOJ decided to move forward after the Steele information was part of it.
Sir, I can tell you when you look at what happened in the investigation, everything was done by the book. And you can assure yourself and your constituents and everybody you're talking to, when you look at both investigations, notwithstanding what decisions were made at a high level to say something, not say something, when you look at the investigation, what those men and women did, everything was done right and by the book.
There is not a single substantive piece of information in the dossier that has ever been corroborated by the FBI or, to my knowledge, anyone else.